bobble his way through the last corner. It's going to be a pretty emotional victory here for Richard Gartner. 2 from 2 this weekend for the Lamborghini.
Well, what a weekend it was for Richard Gartner. Pole position and 2 race wins from round 3 of the 2017 CAMS Australian GT Trophy Series presented by Pirelli. I'm Matt Koch. We're here to recap that event from Queensland Raceway. Great weekend of racing. Didn't start particularly brilliantly for Matt Stupas and Travis Bainin, who had an incident in practice on a Saturday morning, and that ruled them out for the weekend. Unfortunately, we do look forward to seeing those two back, hopefully a little bit later in the year when we get to Phillip Island for round 4. But let's get straight into qualifying, because it was all Richard Gartner. He set a really strong time ahead of Rod Salmon. Steve McLaughlin was right in amongst it as well. He set a string of really quick laps, only to be halted by a red flag in qualifying too, and that really curtailed his chance at moving up the order. A couple of penalties in qualifying as well. Wayne Mack, Jan Yanadasa and Mark Griffith all found themselves moved to the rear of the grid. They get their cars pushed into the garage during qualifying, and that's not allowed. The penalty of which is they lose their time and they get moved to the back of the grid. So they start out with Richard Gartner on pole, Rod Salmon alongside him in second. Steve McLaughlin was then in third, Jake Camilleri in fourth place. Great result from Camilleri, returning to the Mark Cars Australia entry, of course, the 2016 Mark Class winner in the Trophy Series. Race 1, it was all Richard Gartner. The battle at the front was phenomenal. Richard Gartner versus Rod Salmon. The two were inseparable. Throw a rope between them, throw a blanket between them in some places. Gartner very, very quick down the straights, and that played to his advantage into the big braking areas at turns 3 and 6. Rod Salmon had immense pace through turn 2. He closed up some 5 or 10 car lengths going through the middle part of turn 2, but then once they got onto that back straight, the power of the Lamborghini just saw Gartner edge clear. Steve McLaughlin didn't have the greatest of starts, fell back a couple of spots behind Jake Camilleri and Aaron Cameron. Camilleri then had some gearbox problems which took him out of the race, and they'd return a little bit later on in the day in race 2 as well. Aaron Cameron, though, I can't say enough good things about this youngster. First time he's raced a Mark car, the first time he's raced in the Australian GT Trophy Series, and he was in there in third place for a long time, fending off Steve McLaughlin for some 15 minutes at the start of race 1. He walked away from the weekend with near maximum points in Mark class as well. So really, really phenomenal job from that youngster. Watch him as he progresses. Aaron Cameron, remember that name on the performance that we saw on the weekend. He's going to be something very, very special. Let's also reserve mention for Wayne Mack and Jan Yanadasa starting from the rear of the grid. In fact, Wayne Mack started from pit lane. Mack charged up to 4th place in race 1, so a really good drive from him. Jan Yanadasa got up to 7th place. Mark Griffith also edged his way into the top 10, having started at the back as well in that Ferrari 458 challenge. So a good result from the three of them, having started a little bit further back. Race 2, it was a little bit of a reversal of fortunes, and it all happened at the start. Rod Salmon got away quick. As it turned out, it was a little bit too quick. He was some 15 or 20 metres clear of Richard Gartner by the time they crossed the line to take the green flag. That earned him a 5-second post-race penalty, which would end up relegating him to 3rd place behind Wayne Mack. Richard Gartner shadowed Rod Salmon for the first half of the race when they came into the pits. Gartner then got the jump. He then headed the field quite comfortably, it must be said, to the flag from that point. The battle between 2nd and 3rd, Wayne Mack and Rod Salmon, did hot up in the closing stages. There's a little bit of squabbling further back as well. Steve McLaughlin came home in 4th place to take a hefty haul of points as we head towards Phillip Island for the penultimate round of the championship. We're only just at the halfway mark now, so lots still to play for. Let's have a look at the championship standings. So Steve McLaughlin still holding a very commanding position at the top of the table, although that advantage has shrunk a little bit to Rod Salmon. Richard Gartner, courtesy of his strong performance, 220 points on the weekend. He took everything that was on offer. That's moved him up into 3rd place. Rick Metz has dropped down the order a little bit, but everyone's still in contention. Lots and lots of points still up for grabs, so you can't afford to relax too much if you're Steve McLaughlin. Everyone else is pushing very, very hard, and Rod Salmon, on the form we saw on the weekend, isn't far away from a race victory as well, so should he pick that up, he'll pick up some more points as well. heading into Phillip Island, I wouldn't put that past Rod Salmon in the Squirk Online Education Audi. It's a circuit that suits the Audi. It's got good mid-corner speed. There's lots of long loaded corners through Phillip Island, and that will suit the Audi perhaps more than the Lamborghini when we get there. Mark Griffith, a strong performance in the challenge class. That's seen him rocket to the top of those standings. Scott Hookey in there as well. Mikulovsky and Aratoon scoring some big points over the weekend. And in the Mark class, it's all Aaron Cameron. What a performance from the youngster. That's seen him rocket to the top of those standings as well. Jake Camilleri, not a great weekend, didn't actually finish either race. That is round 3 of the 2017 CAMS Australian GT Trophy Series. We are heading next to Phillip Island. Before we get there, you'll be able to check out all the action on Speed Week on August 13. And of course, we've got the CAMS Australian Endurance Championship heading to Sydney Motorsport Park in a couple of weeks' time. So do keep your eye out for those. Plenty still to come in 2017 for Australian GT. We've got the Australian GT Championship heading to Sandown in the not too distant future as well. So do keep a check of our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Hit us up, hashtag Australian GT. Flick us all your questions and comments. We do love hearing from you and seeing your pictures on Instagram. That's all from us. We look forward to seeing you again when we go racing at the Australian Endurance Championship at Sydney Motorsport Park.